LaTia didn't get them. All right. Is it happening?
Are we? Is it?
Are we
Are
on?
we happening? Are we on?
Yeah,
You're
we're
live.
on.
We're live. Let's go.
I was vibing to that intro screen,
Yeah.
and
It
I
was
was
real
like,
good.
it's a fantastic song. So shout out to that song
Yes.
and a fantastic. I don't know, and whoever wrote it. All right. Well, hello everybody. Welcome to another exciting panel at Big Bad Con. This is called Balancing Act. We're very excited to talk about how we balance things, including one of our panelists is doing a balancing act live. So we're very excited to talk about her experience, which is really wonderful. So I want to thank everybody for coming out here. If you have questions or anything like that, talk about it in the chat. And then the fantastic friends at Big Bad Con will let us know, because we're not in the chat because we're focused on talking about the balance, which is wonderful. So I will start with some introductions. We have a little disclaimer, and then we'll get into it. So, LaTia, could you please
Hi.
introduce yourself to the lovely, lovely, and fantastic people watching?
Hi. I'm LaTia Jacquise. It says so right there. I am one of the community managers for D&D at Wizards of the Coast. I am also one of the panelists. I am also a streamer, writer, designer. I have a dog. I have plants. I build Legos. I don't know. I do too many hats. Put some hats back.
Put some hats back.
Put some hats back.
Gotta
But yeah, and that's just the stuff that I can remember right now. So that's me, and I'm happy to be here.
We're happy you are here, LaTia. Thanks for being here. Sadie, please tell us about you.
Yes, I am Sadie Lowry. My pronouns are she, her, and I am so thrilled to be here. I love Big Bad Con. Meredith told me I had to list all the things. So I am a gamer, an avid baker, a traveler, a dungeon master, and a D&D player, a rescue dog owner, a wife, an artist. In TTRPGs, I'm a freelance writer, game designer, and editor working with companies like Wizards of the Coast, Brotherwise Games, MCDM, and more. And at my day job, I'm an editor creating cookbooks, coloring books, journals, tarot decks, art books, and other projects for your favorite video game IPs.
Thank you very much, Sadie. LaTia and I were not ready for your subsection. We were counting, and then a subsection appeared. So
I know, I'm so sorry.
It's okay. No, please don't apologize. You're perfect in every way. Myself. Hi, I'm Meredith Gerber. My pronouns are she, her. I am the publisher relations manager at DriveThruRPG. I make the graphics for DriveThruRPG. I'm a writer. I'm a graphic designer, website designer. I do video editing for indie video game trailers. I do, oh my gosh, social media. So I'm a social media administrator and have been for a long time. My photographer, did I mention that? I'm a photographer. And cat owner for two beautiful boys named Banjo and Noctis.
And dog auntie.
Yes.
And dog auntie.
And I'm a for two dogs. And I love them very much. Sometimes I also take care of Dio, LaTia's dog, who I love very much. I can't take care of Sadie's dog, unfortunately, because she's far away, but I love her. Video gamer, wife, person. I love gardening and baking as well. So yeah, it's a lot of different things that I'm balancing in my life, which is exciting. So quick disclaimer, two-part disclaimer. Number one, as we always like to say in these things, these are our experiences. We are not licensed professional balancers. We do not have PhDs in balancing. Number two, anything we say today might work for us. It might not work for you. Same thing goes. It might work for me, Sadie and I. It might not work for LaTia. So when we come up with these talks and advice and how we go through things, we definitely are not saying that's what's going to help you, because we also, third disclaimer, are also still going through and learning our own balancing act. It's always a work in progress. It is always a learning process. So we've broken this into 3 parts. The first part is how to balance creative projects. So, LaTia, I'm gonna start with you. Scenario.
Mm-hmm.
These are now going to be role-playing scenarios. Okay, so
Excellent. I'm ready. Let's go. I was born for this.
You're born for this. How do you balance your full-time job, being a dog owner, all the things, and across your desk comes a contract for a new creative outlet, whether it's your writing or you're developing, you have it in your hand. It's
right here.
$18 because you're so great and you deserve it. But how do you look at that and say, essentially, what's your process for when you're deciding that? Like if you should take it or anything like that?
Well, I mean, this is going to sound a little bit boilerplate because I think we all kind of do the same thing here, but I would consider my current workload, whether or not I truly have the space in my schedule to take such a lucrative contract. And then for me personally, it also depends on whether or not my job will let me, like if it is something that I can do in conjunction with working at Wizards, because I work at Wizards and that means that I can't do all the things that I used to be able to do, which is a blessing and a curse because it means that I can say no to things and not feel bad about it because they know I can't do the thing. You have to look at timeline and like whether the work is like feasibly within your skill set. I say your, I mean my. And yeah, weighing all of that stuff with the weigh in from my job, and then like if my job says yes, then I really give it a little bit more consideration as to whether or not, like knowing what I have coming up in my job and whether or not this may conflict with any of those deadlines and whether or not that'll conflict with any of these deadlines. Like not just looking at what I have going on now, but what I have going on for the entire length of whatever this cool contract might be. And then making that decision.
Awesome. Sadie, you have been given the same $18 million because
Wow.
Again, you both deserve way more than that, in my opinion. But you have received it.
I have received it. So I have actually on my Google Drive, I have a I don't know what the word is, but I have a checklist essentially. And every contract I see, every job opportunity that comes across, I weigh it against the checklist. And the checklist are things that are important to me. Things like is the rate good? Not only that, like, do I have what's all on my checklist? Is the rate good? Do I have a good working relationship already with the person who is offering it, or do I know the team? Would taking this still let me have a couple of days of rest a week, or would I be rushing it? Is it going to involve a lot of research, or is it something I can do pretty easily? And I have a checklist, and it's full of a lot of things that are important to me, and I think everyone should make their own checklist. But every job I get, I weigh against that checklist, and I go, okay, it does have this, it doesn't have this, it does have this, it doesn't have this. And there's a number in my head that I want to hit when I decide if I'm going to take a job. I want it to check at least 6 or 7 of these things. And doing that, having that list helps me to view things in less of an emotional mindset and more of a logistical mindset.
Mhm.
Because if I did everything that I thought was cool, I would never have a break ever. So being able to say, okay, this meets 8 out of my 10 points. Yeah, this is a good job. This meets 9 out of 10. This only meets 4. Maybe I should say no. I recommend, having those kind of metrics in your brain when you're looking at something, and some of them I weigh more than others. Like the rest one is really big for me, and fair pay is pretty big for me as well. So some of them are given more weight than others.
Sadie, great answer. Both of you gave great answers. Thank you very much. And I want to pull out a couple. Number one, power of no. You don't have to say yes to every single contract.
Yes.
If you say no to this contract, the world isn't going to go, well, LaTia and Sadie and Meredith never have time ever. We are never going to ask them for anything again. So it's okay to exercise no, even on things that look really cool that you can't fit in, because you have to put yourself first. Sadie, your checklist is amazing, and it is taking every ounce of me right now to not open up a Word doc on the side and start doing it. I think that's a brilliant idea.
Sadie, send me your checklist.
I'll get my checklist. Yeah.
I think that's a really, really brilliant idea, and I really want to try that out. And of course, too, I think is important is also conversation with the person, because there are times where, not always, but you can turn to the person and say, hey, I can't, do it this month, but I'm gonna have more space next month. Like, would that be feasible? And setting expectations. I just did that with my friend and yours, Josh Simons, who reached out and said, hey, can you do this project? And I said, hey, I am working on a video game trailer this week. I would love to talk about this next week, type of deal. So always good to be communicative, which is awesome.
Yeah.
We have a question from chat.
Yay.
Okay. I'm going to start with Sadie this time.
Okay.
And you talked about your checklist, so let's talk a little bit more about the feels.
The feels. Okay.
The feels. Balancing so many things, do you have the pervasive feeling that you're always forgetting something or behind on something? If so, how do you manage that anxiety and or keeping track of it all?
That is such a good question. So one, the answer is yes. I am always struggling with that feeling. It's really hard when you've got so many deadlines in your brain to not feel like, and because not only are we doing all these job things, but I know that my dishes need doing. I know that my house needs cleaning. I know that my furnace needs an air, like I need to replace the filter in my furnace. And so this has been a long process for me over my last few years of freelancing. I think that one, you have to find an organizational situation that works for you. Some people use Notion boards, some people use checklists, and I like to divide mine. Like, okay, day job, freelance work, house. I have one for my house as well because I need one. I manage it by asking for help when I need it. I am a very go-getter kind of person, and I do a lot of things. The other things I didn't mention, I do all of the finances for my husband and I. I make all of our appointments. I schedule everything that we do. I'm a very mentally organized person, but that means that it's hard for me when I'm feeling overwhelmed to be like, Chris, can you do something? Because it's like, well, that's my thing to do. So I've had to learn to know, I want to do this part. Chris, can you please take care of this part? Hey, friend, I'm really struggling with this. Can I have you do this part of it? Delegating tasks is a big part of that. In achieving that balance. And then, like I said, extensive like to-do lists, and there are so many different ways out there that you can do that, like Notion boards, checklists in a journal. There are probably other ways that I'm not thinking of right now. Yeah.
Thank you, Sadie. That was a great answer. Before I ask LaTia, someone in chat asked, can the checklist be shared post-panel chat?
Yeah, let me dig it out.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, if anything. Yeah, we'll clean it up and stuff, which will be awesome. When I say clean it up, I don't mean I mean, clean it up, like take out your personal info and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
No, it's
LaTia.
just filled with curse words. No.
It's just a bunch of F words.
Yeah. And pictures of butts for some reason. Maybe.
But
there
everyone
is
who
F
knows me
dashes.
knows that that's like the
There
funniest.
is F
I don't curse at all.
I know, which is fun, and how are Sadie and I friends, because I curse like a sailor, and I'm trying very hard to say things like "Sweet Christmas" on this panel. Okay, "Sweet Christmas" is one of my favorite cover-ups. All right, LaTia, talk to me about your feels and your how do you keep track of everything?
Poorly.
Okay, great answer. Thank you,
So-
LaTia. All right, next.
Rubric. That's what it's called. I was sorry. I was forgetting the word rubric. I have a rubric.
Oh,
That's what it's called. Okay,
Nice.
I'm sorry,
Bill,
LaTia.
that's
I
incredible.
do. It's okay. I do love that word. It's a good word. But yes, I think anybody who works in any sort of creative industry has the feeling that they're always forgetting something or always behind on something. I think I'm not going to say it's worse for me personally. I feel that it's worse personally as someone who is neurodivergent and just got the official thumbs up that, hey, you are neurodivergent. And so I feel like I'm catching up to a lot of these things. One of the things that Sadie said about delegating tasks, I felt extremely much, partially because like my being here is the result of delegating tasks. There is a big game happening right now, and I was helping to moderate it, and it wouldn't be such good moderation if it weren't for my co-community manager and our moderation team, who are currently working across 4 streaming channels to make sure that everyone is being good. So delegating is like so necessary, but it's also so hard when you feel like you have ownership of those things. And you don't necessarily want to give them up because they're done. Like when you do them, they're done the way that you know that they need to be done. And when you delegate them, they might not get done that way, but they'll get done. And that's kind of what's more important. What is it? Perfect is the enemy of good, or something like that. But yeah, as far as keeping track of it, I'm a very, I love technology, but I'm also a very tactile person. So literally surrounding me right now are probably about 6 notebooks full of information that is probably related to about 2 or 3 things, because I need to use my notebooks, and also I keep losing my notebooks. So making notes of things, and I do have a to-do list on my phone. I'm a fan of the Things app for iPhone because I'm an Apple system person aside from my PC. So I use a lot of different systems because I also realize that sometimes they lose novelty with me and I have to go do something else. So keeping track of it is basically finding the system that works for me, but also acknowledging that system's not going to last forever, and having a rotation of things that keep task management new and exciting to me. And then realizing when it's time to switch.
That's all really good. And LaTia, also thank you for sharing your experience with being neurodivergent, because I think that's important, especially with novelty. I know that can either be super fantastic and wonderful for a long time, or it could last 5 seconds. So but that's a balance in itself, is balancing essentially all your tools and saying, okay, this tool doesn't work, I'm going to put it down, I'm going to pick up another one, and that's incredible. So both of you are great at that. So thank you.
This conversation reminded me that I just had my annual review at my day job, and my number one feedback from my manager was, she's like, I want you to delegate more. She's like, why are you doing your busy work? I want your creative brain doing creative tasks. I don't want you doing the busy work.
These are my tasks.
These are my
tasks.
Don't look at them.
My ability to check things off a checklist that gives me serotonin and makes my brain happy. She's like, stop it. Get help.
Did we have the same performance review? Because I'm pretty sure we work for the same. Because that was also on my performance review, was delegating.
Oh my gosh.
And that's tough because as a manager, I have a team of of incredible people. We'll call out right now Adam, Cage, Jack, and Brooke. They're wonderful. But I had to explain, it's not that I don't, and I think this is important to pull out on when we talk about delegation. It's not that I don't trust them. They're all brilliant. They are all completely capable of doing the same work as me. They could speak to any of our publishing partners, and I would be like, "This is fantastic." It's just that fear of being like that, but that's my stuff, like, and so it's
Yeah.
difficult in that, and we obviously, Sadie and I and LaTia is nodding a lot, so are struggling with that. So it takes time. I will say practice does help. And practice does help. And something I found in delegation is starting small, little tiny baby delegations, and then expanding instead of going all the way to be like, I'm going to give you this massive project, like that's going to take you 85,000 hours, like to do, and just being like, hey, do you mind sending that email for me, like real quick? I'm a little busy. So that's definitely important. Tools I use to balance. This definitely does not work for everybody because my sweet, wonderful, neurospicy husband doesn't understand it. But Pomodoro for me works really well.
Yes.
Yes, and by breaking tasks up, that's the thing. We talk about big, right? Like instead of saying I have to clean the entire house, that's a big project. That's a huge project. But saying like, hey, Monday I'm gonna, clean the counters and I'm gonna take out the garbage, like, and putting that on my Pomodoro list is nice because it feels like I've accomplished this massive task of a tiny task that is a big task, which is really awesome. Pomodoro is fantastic if you can do it. There are 8 gazillion apps out there. Find the one you like. The one that I have, which is Timekeeper, makes an active ticking sound, which I like, drives some people up a wall. So again, try your best. And then
I
much
have
like,
this.
yeah, is that the one you slam down?
Yeah.
Like,
So
Yeah.
this is the time that it is. So if I turn it to 5 minutes, then then it starts.
Whoa.
And then like
can you tell the folks at home where you got that?
Amazon.
Yeah.
And then I
love that.
gave it googly eyes because
Everything needs googly eyes.
Does it have a name?
I named it Jikan, which is the Japanese word for time.
I
Or clock.
love that.
I love them. I hope they're doing well today.
They are.
Good. I'm really glad. Yeah, same with Sadie and LaTia calendars. I use Cron, thanks to LaTia, which is great. And the other thing I want to talk to you about too is when we talk about communication, it doesn't always have to be communication with delegation. There are times that I have reached out to LaTia and been like, hey, like, what do you think about, like, what should I say to this, like, type of deal? And LaTia's done the same thing, and I think Sadie has too, where you kind of are like, hey, I just need a confidence check on this. Like, this seems like an overly big project. Is this an overly big project I shouldn't take, type of deal? Is like lean on your friends in, especially those in the industry that can help you out on that. So
establish a good feedback loop.
Yes. Feedback loop is really, really helpful.
Every time my group has told me, Sadie, you don't actually want to take that, you're just feeling FOMO, they've been 100% right.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely. The people around you might not know you the best, but they do know some things better than your internal monologues. So we have to listen, which is good.
Yeah, I mentioned this in a similar fashion to somebody else yesterday. It's like when you are engrossed in a thing, there is a lot that you don't see. So it's really good to get feedback or suggestions or advice from somebody who's not in that thing as much as you are, because there's a lot that you don't see looking at it so closely, but then when somebody else is looking at it and they can see everything else that's behind you that you don't see, it's like, yeah, no, you don't want to do that for these reasons.
Exactly. Yeah. And you have to keep your peace about that too, which brings us into the next topic.
Whoa, look at that segue.
Oh,
that was so good.
That was so smooth.
Oh my gosh. It's just because you both are here, and I think you're the best. If no one has noticed, LaTia, Sadie, and I are all friends and talk a lot. So when we were
What are you
making this
what are you
format.
talking about? I've never seen Sadie before in my life. We've definitely never
Never seen
worked on
Sadie.
projects before.
Definitely never. Who's
No.
LaTia?
LaTia lives 20 minutes away from me, and Sadie and I have a lot in common, including we play Final Fantasy 14 together. Like, that's just how it works.
Yeah.
Which is a balancing act in itself. So, LaTia,
Yeah.
how do you balance yourself and your mental health? Regardless of what you're working on, like regardless if you are taking care of Dio, regardless if you're taking care of your house, regardless if you are doing projects or stuff for Wizards, how do you prioritize your mental health?
This was very hard for me to learn to do, and I learned it the most when Dio was a puppy. I had to learn how to step away. Because I've never raised a puppy before, and when they start teething, the world is their chew toy. And that was also a balancing act in its own, because I was balancing puppy and I was also like fresh to my job with Wizards. So it was learning the new job, learning how to take care of a puppy, and also dealing with a really big life adjustment at the time. And so it was like, if I continue to acknowledge this, I might blow up. Like, me personally, I will literally just like combust. And so I had to lean pretty heavily on my partner, my Chris, when I just had to like step away from things and just not be at them at the time. And I got into gardening, which just added one more one more thing to the list of things that I do. But no, I love being outside. I love my plant room. They're very good for my mental health, even if I wonder why they're dying and I don't know why. But yeah, finding something that is low effort for me, like whether it's just like laying down, if it's just, putting on a movie I've seen a million times, finding that thing that kind of resets you, brings you back to zero or back to neutral, or whatever you call your kind of, balanced state of mind, finding those things and recognizing that it's okay to indulge in them because they're good for you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How many cables did you lose to Dio while he was
Not that many, actually.
Okay,
He
good.
was so.
We were the cables.
Yeah. So one, I was expecting this, so I knew to get anything out of his way. He chewed on my piano keyboard cable, but I didn't lose it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he was. I didn't even lose furniture with him. Like, he didn't chew on anything. I guess because I was just so excited to have him that I bought him all the things that he needed. So,
Good.
yeah.
Yeah. And now Dio is, and I want to say too, like in your balancing act, and because this is kind of important to call out, like Dio is like so well behaved, like so like you prioritize, definitely I shows that prioritize that, like of making sure like Dio grows up to be a big dog and is super great. So thanks for being a great dog owner.
Thanks.
Sadie.
He's out there somewhere.
We love him. We love Dio. He's got a lot. He has the biggest snoot. Okay, so
we got
Sadie.
long snoot boys.
Yeah, I know. I low key feel like after this we should take to just posting our animals on Twitter.
Yeah, sure.
Be like, these are
Absolutely.
the people we're talking about. Sadie, how do you balance your mental health when at any time? Or regardless of what you're working on.
I've been thinking a lot about this question because I burned out of freelancing really hard, probably sometime last year, I would say. And it was a combination of, I had just been freelancing nonstop a lot for years. And then I had some real life crises that commanded my attention on top of the workloads that I had agreed to. And then we had a dog, and Fenris, I love him. He's a wonderful dog. But when we first got him, he was really, really well behaved, but he's a rescue dog. And as he opened up to us more, he started showing us his anxieties and his fears. And so we had a couple of incidents with him that I had to learn how to work with him and his anxiety. And so it felt like last year everything was culminating at once, and it was really hard to be juggling all of this. And so one of the things I did, probably the number one answer, is I scaled back my workload immensely, and I prioritized me and my people and my dog and my life. And it was, I feel like at the time I kind of faded out of the public eye for a while, and I learned to be okay with that, because it was like the public eye is not as important as my people and my family and my dog. um the other thing that I noticed, though, that I really wanted to touch on this panel, is that when things were really busy, before all these incidents made me realize that I was not prioritizing me and my family and my life, I realized that I was not prioritizing my own projects and my own creative endeavors. I stopped drawing for a long time. I got so busy that I was delaying my D&D campaign over and over and over again. I stopped writing for fun. And I think that one of the things that contributes to burnout is when we're not doing self-fulfilling creative tasks. Like, I was giving everyone else my time and my words and my creativity. I was devoting every drop of passion and creativity I had to other people's projects. And don't get me wrong, I loved those projects. I loved them like they were my own, but it meant that I wasn't playing my D&D game. I wasn't playing my video games. I wasn't writing for my personal projects. I wasn't baking. I wasn't drawing art of my characters. And the more that I scaled back, the more that I've had time for things that I lead and I love. And you know what? That has actually made me more creative, because I get time to fulfill myself. I get to fill my well. And then I get to take parts of that full and overflowing well and give them more, each project I do, more of myself. It ends up being this really healthy cycle, because the more me that I have, the more that I can give the few projects that I choose to do, as opposed to taking on 20 projects and I have only a cup of water and I'm giving everyone a tablespoon trying to keep up. I think that having your own projects and things that you are really passionate about and that are only for you, and that could be gardening, right, and dog ownership and running a D&D campaign. But I think that keeping our own creative well filled and keeping ourselves, like, keep making sure that we're setting aside time for our own passions, I think that's huge.
Yeah, Sadie, that's a great call out. And it reminds me of when I went through my burnout. It reminds me of 7 types of rest. You can Google it. Yeah, 7 types of
Heard of that.
rest. So 7 types of rest is, a lot of people think that resting is sleeping. That's it. When or taking time off of work. But there's things like creative rest, such as, hey, like you said, Sadie, like making your own artwork. There is physical rest, which is passive and actionable. Passive, obviously, being laying down, taking a nap. Actionable being like going outside in the garden, like LaTia. And then, of course, there's like mental rest, emotional rest. There's all sorts of rest that I found that when I realized what those 7 types were, that if I was sitting there being like, I'm getting 8 hours of sleep, why am I exhausted? Like, I'm exhausted because I haven't taken care of the other aspects. And it's difficult too, because it's 7 things you have to also balance. But knowing that there are different types of rest will help you figure out what you need to prioritize. Like, how Sadie, how you said, we were like, I haven't done anything creative. Like, of course you're exhausted because you've
Yeah.
done no creative rest at all.
I think that's really interesting because beginning of this year, I got very interested in the different types of health that exist,
Mhm.
like physical,
Mhm.
spiritual,
Yeah.
emotional, mental. And you can make those types of rest match up with the types of health that you need to
Yeah.
prioritize.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if that's something that I'm going to, kind of piggyback off this, but if that's something that interests you, person who's watching this, yeah, look up the 7 types of rest and then compare that to how healthy you are in those areas as well. And then, yeah, you'll see if you definitely deprioritize something and you're not feeling fulfilled in that area, then, try and figure out what you can do to get back to a good state of that. I'm going to say good mental state, but not necessarily a mental state, but a good state in
Good
that
state.
area
Yeah.
of health.
Yeah.
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 Absolutely.
That's such a
I
good
agree.
tip. I just looked up like the 7 types of rest because I was curious, and it's so interesting because it's like I would have told you at the time when I was working, like, I'm sleeping. Yeah, I took Saturday off. Of course
I
I'm
did
resting. I did it.
it.
But like looking at this, it's like I wasn't creative resting. I wasn't social resting. I wasn't spiritual resting, you
Yeah.
know? I was only sensory resting at the end of the day. And even then, I'd get in bed and then my husband would be like, "How was your day? We haven't really talked." And it's like, "Chris, I love you. I just want quiet for like 10 minutes." And you know, making time, sensory rest, creative rest. This is such a good tip, Meredith.
Oh, thank you. Well, also shout out to LaTia for the 7 types of health, which
I'm
are
looking that up now
apparently
too.
together.
Yeah, I mean, so
Um,
like like you can look it up, and like different websites will obviously tell you different things. But I
of
think
course.
if you're into like if the 7 types of rest interest you, then really you can just like turn that over. 7 types
Mm,
of rest, 7 types of health. Make sure that they are balanced,
yeah, absolutely.
which
Yeah.
is the
And
hardest part.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's the difficult thing. And I want to say on social, something that I'm going to give a super hot tip about is make sure this is a hard one. I don't know, it's going to be tough pill to swallow. Make sure you're surrounding yourself with people that are A, supportive of you, and B, are supportive of no. Um,
Hmm.
that's one of the biggest things. I will use LaTia as an example. LaTia and I hang out as much as we can. There have been times where LaTia has canceled on me. There have been times where I've canceled on LaTia, and we're like, okay, cool. Like that's it, as it
Mm-hmm.
should be, because and that's something that like there shouldn't be that pressure. You know what I mean? And same thing kind of like creatively, there shouldn't be that pressure like from the people around you to be like, hey, why aren't you doing this super creative thing? Like, I get you're overworked, but like, this is a great
Hmm.
opportunity for you. I'm
Yeah,
overworked. Thank you.
I get you're overworked, but can you overwork yourself some more?
Yeah,
The
right.
thing, can you just a
Why
little
don't you draw for me anymore? Like,
oh my
no.
gosh, Sadie, like where are my 14 characters that you promised?
I know.
Never. But the other thing I want to say is something that I always tell my team at Drive Through, which is because all of them come from corporate, like corporate type of jobs where the hustle is the best, and no, it is not. You should not be working 24/7 or dreaming of work. But the thing is that I say is they'll come in and say like, not really feeling good, like just wanted to let you know. And I'm like, cool, take the day off. Like, because the thing I will always say, the work will always be there, but you will not be. That is a quote from my
Mhm.
husband that I use all the time. Like, this work can wait. Like, you are a priority. You're 100% a priority, because I would rather you take the day
Yeah.
to get yourself balanced than make yourself horrendously sick for 3 weeks. You know what I mean? And
Mhm.
and the thing is too is a lot of people are like, well, I'm in peak physical condition. You can make yourself sick emotionally. I promise you, because I've been there for burnout. Like, it is 100% a real thing. So
Can I
yeah, surround
can
yourself
I
with good
add something?
people. No. Uh
Yeah, fair. Okay, I'll just go. No.
no,
Yeah,
Sadie, go.
100% agree. And I think that a support system, I didn't mean to interrupt you, by the way, I'm sorry.
That's
But
our lives. I feel like between the three of us is
I
that
know.
we have just like kind of accepted. I don't want to put this disclaimer on there. We've just kind of accepted we interrupt each other. So
It's the neurodivergence. I'm
yeah,
sorry.
please don't go on Twitter and be like, wow, Sadie interrupts people a lot. Like, no,
No, I'm
all three of
sorry. I
us are
thought
cool
she
with
was
it.
done. I'm
We're fine.
sorry.
No, Sadie,
Um,
I'm just
yeah.
how do I say I am giving you grief.
um,
Go.
it's really interesting. I think that something I kind of wanted your guys' thoughts on is when you look up the list of things that cause burnout, there's a lot of them, right? And it's like workload, how much reward are you getting for the amount of work that you're doing? Do you have motivation? Are you getting treated fairly? Is there fairness? Are you satisfied with the work you're doing? One thing that I think about a lot in the TTRPG community is that a lot of freelancers, especially, so we have inherently, because of the type of work that we do, a lack of control and a lack of not really autonomy, but like we have a very big lack of control when it comes to the types of work that we do. Like, we write to the brief and we turn it in, and anything can happen to our words after that. We have no idea what's going to happen. Like, it could be completely different. It might change away from our vision, and it might even stay the same, but we don't have a lot of control over that process. And I think this, like, especially, marginalized genders, marginalized races, like, we're not in positions of power. We're not, we're often not the ones leading projects. We're not the ones in senior game designer positions. And that I see a lot of, marginalized creators burning out a lot faster because I think that they experience a lack of control and a lack of autonomy, and they're just, you know nose to the grindstone, just churning out words. And that's part of the reason. I mean, I love your take on that, but I think that's part of the reason why doing our own creative works is so important, because being able to take a project from beginning to end and make sure that our creative vision is, there's loyalty to it, and it persists the entire way through. I love the companies that I have freelanced for, and there are companies like MCDM where they put a really big emphasis on trying to retain that vision and the author's intent, and I think that that really helps. But I think that that's something that, like, marginalized creators can watch out for. Like, some of the most successful marginalized creator I know in the industry are ones that are leading their own projects, making their own games, making those indie games that they love. And I think there's something to be said for that, you know
Yes, to everything that you just said.
Yes. Agreed.
But
We
yeah,
only have.
Yeah, no,
I was
I
gonna
was,
say.
no, I was literally just going to say that, like, I mean, I agree with it, and I think that that just kind of impresses the importance of fulfilling yourself creatively. Like, I don't write as much these days, but when I have an idea and I have like a vision for it, I'll just jot it down, and that makes me happy because, one, it gets out of my brain, and yeah, there's more space for more creative ideas in there. But I also just like feel accomplished at just having put some words on paper. So
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, you don't like it's kind of how I mentioned with the house, like you don't have to do the full thing. Like you don't have to do the full top to bottom take on 800 projects. Like you can still do little things that grant that fulfillment without throwing yourself into burnout, which is important. So, very good points, both of you. I was saying that we have a couple minutes left, so I didn't want to say yes, Sadie. I agree with the following things, and yes, LaTia, I agree with the following things. I agree with both of you. You're both brilliant. First of all, fantastic. Okay, so I'm gonna ask one more question.
Well,
I'm just gonna Do it. Yeah, because
Do
we
it.
got 6 minutes, and I'm like, the outros are gonna take like 3. Like, this is how this works. How do you? We kind of touched on this a little bit. I'd like to talk about more, which is time. How do you manage time in terms of deadlines, in terms of being neurospicy? This is a tough one, and sometimes having time issues. How do you balance time specifically, LaTia? Nope, Sadie.
Yeah, LaTia. What's the secret, please?
What's the secret? Yeah, LaTia, this is the
The
time you tell us the
secret is I have a time machine and I'm in my basement, and I'm only just now telling you both this. I'm so sorry.
You
Ugh.
promised me that you told me that the parts were not going to be in for another 3 years, and
Oh, look,
I feel
that
slighted.
okay, but see, that's the thing about the time machine is that I can go and get them, and then no, I don't know, because I'm still bad at it. I'm still bad at it. You know, it's I'm going to stop using the word balancing act. I'm going to say that one's a juggling act, because there are so many things that we want to have time for. And it's, well, which ball am I going to throw away today to have more time to, get out in the garden while the sun is still up? Or, am I going to throw away the gardening ball to take Dio to the dog park because he hasn't stretched his legs in a week? I will say, I guess my suggestion for that is not to try to do everything every day. Set days where you do go out in the garden, or that you do take your dog to the dog park, or that this is the day where you're going to take an hour nap, because this is normally when you get tired at this point in the week. So just take a nap. So don't do everything every day. Set specific days and times for things, and you're not going to get it all at once, but you'll figure it out. I'm telling you, I'm still bad at it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Same.
Okay, great.
Same. Yeah, no, that's really good advice. And I like having different days devoted to different things. And also I like having the flexibility to be like, I feel so crummy today. So today is actually going to be my baking day, and tomorrow instead will be my my writing day.
Yeah, the flexibility also.
Yeah. I would say that, so my brain is very deadline driven. That is a blessing that I have, is that despite being neurospicy, one thing that my brain does is that it will stress out about meeting a deadline, and I will make sure that I meet it. What that unfortunately means is that because it knows that I will do that, I struggle to work on things until the deadline approaches, because it's like, well, I'm gonna get it done. It's like, no, Sadie, come on. Like, please, I don't want to write 10,000 words in 2 days. I want to write like 200 words in like 20 days. That math doesn't add up. Don't do that math. But
500 words in 20 days.
Yeah, thank you. So one thing that I found is I like to set myself a timer, like Sadie, today you can go do whatever you want after, but you have to, for an hour, write words for this project, or 30 minutes, whatever it is. It's like, because and giving myself that kind of like, you can do whatever you want after that, but just put down words, because getting started is the hardest part for me. Opening the doc and committing to writing the words is the hardest part. And I often find that as soon as I actually start, it goes very smoothly. And so I hold myself hostage. It's like, yes, you can go play Elden Ring, but only after you've written words for 30 minutes. And then I get stuff done in that 30 minutes. So that's what's working for me right now. In a year, it might not work, but then I'll find a new trick.
Yep. That's what we talk about, balancing act. Speaking of balancing act, we need to balance time for real.
I feel like we could talk about this for like several more hours.
I know. That's one of the things that I'm like, should I sign up for like 3 different panels and be like, part 1, part 2, 3? Maybe we'll do a part 2 next year. Who knows? So awesome. Okay, 2 minutes. LaTia, where can people find you?
Hi, you see my name here? That is me everywhere, including a .com. So that's where, like, that's, look for that and find me. That's it. Good job.
Cool. Awesome. Sadie.
You can find me on various websites at incandescent. I need to change this. It's the word incandescent, but with an A before the E, because I was being artsy. SadieLowry.com if you want to see my portfolio. You can also just search Sadie Lowry on social media, and I'll probably show up.
Most likely, and it's mostly me yelling in all caps.
Yeah.
I am only
Please
on
keep doing that.
Yeah, I will. I'm only on the Twitter space is Meredith Gerber. Also, my website is also .com. So thank you, Sadie. Thank you, LaTia. Thank you to our big bad friends who are working behind the scenes. We really appreciate you. Thank you to everyone watching, whether you're watching it live or watching it later. We really, really appreciate it. So thank you for hanging out with us. We hope that this is helpful. And if you see us on the internet, tell us what you find in your balancing act. In the meantime,
tell us how to balance things.
Yeah, if you figure out the time thing, please tag all three of us immediately. All right, friends. We hope you have a wonderful rest of your Big Bad Con. Jump in the Big Bad Con Discord if you want to see cute pets or talk about all the amazing panels after. Thank you so much. Okay, we're waving.
Bye.
We're doing the wave thing. We gotta hold the wave. Okay, we're waving. We're waving.
I think we're good.
They can still hear us.
Yes, they can.
So then we can. So I just want to say great job, Sadie and LaTia.
Great
that
job,
was
Meredith.
Excellent. Yes,
Yeah,
thank you.
Meredith, great job.
Y'all have great feedback and advice on this, and I'm really glad that
next
we did
time this
together.
one, it has to be called like something circus, because there's balancing, there's juggling, and there's tight ropes and stuff.
What if it's circus music intensifies? But that's just
frantic juggling intensifies. Yeah.
Yeah, just circus music intensifies.